The heat was the first thing to return. Not the comforting warmth of a hearth, but the searing, skin-blistering agony of fire. I could smell my own flesh charring, mixing with the acrid smoke of the dungeon. I could hear the jeering laughter of the guards, their hands, rough, greasy, smelling of stale ale, tearing at my clothes. And there, sitting in the shadows just beyond the flames, was Carl. He watched me burn with eyes as cold as a frozen lake, indifferent to my screams. I remembered the moment I snapped. The moment I summoned the last dregs of my core energy, not to save myself, but to ignite the air itself. If I was going to hell, I was taking this entire torture chamber with me. The explosion was a roar of white-hot liberation. Then, silence. Cold. Why was it cold? Gregory. The voice was a ragged whisper, strained and desperate. Gregory, help me. My eyes snapped open. The ceiling wasn't the soot-stained stone of the dungeon. It was timber, polished and familiar. I wasn't bound to a rack. I was standing in a room I hadn't seen in years. I looked down. My wrist was caught in a vice-like grip. Gregory. It burns. I followed the arm up to the face of the man holding me. Carl. He was right there, inches away. But this wasn't the Carl who sat in the shadows watching me die. His face was flushed a deep, unnatural crimson. Sweat beaded on his forehead, matting his dark hair. His eyes, usually so composed and arrogant, were swimming with a chaotic, feral need. The scent hit me a second later, the overwhelming, suffocating pheromones of a prime alpha entering a chemically induced rut. I stumbled back, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My gaze darted around the room. No blood-crusted chains. No torture devices. Just a simple desk, a rack of swords, and moonlight spilling through the window. This was Carl's private quarters at the Order. I knew this night. God, I knew this night. In my past life, this was the night everything went wrong. Carl had been poisoned by a rival faction with frostbite toxin. The only cure was the transference of pure, solar-based internal energy. And I, the fool that I was, carried the sunfire essence in my blood. I had given myself to him that night. I had saved his life, and in return, he destroyed mine. What are you waiting for? Carl growled, his grip tightening on my wrist until the bone creaked. Help me. He yanked me forward. The fabric of my collar tore with a sharp rip. The cool night air hit my skin, and instantly, the phantom sensation of those dungeon guards' hands crawled over my flesh. Bile rose in my throat, hot and acidic. Get off. The scream tore from my throat. I didn't think. I just reacted. I clamped my teeth down onto his forearm, biting down until I tasted the copper tang of blood. Carl roared, his grip slackening just enough. I wrenched my arm free and shoved him. He stumbled back, crashing into the edge of his desk. The pain seemed to clear the fog in his eyes for a split second. He looked at the bite mark, then at my heaving chest, his expression twisting into a sneer. You really are pathetic, Gregory, he spat, his voice thick with lust and disdain. You think playing hard to get makes me want you? You're delusional. That face. That handsome, hateful face that I had once worshipped. Looking at him now, all I could see was the man who had let me rot. I wanted to kill him. My hand twitched toward the sword rack. One strike. I could end it right here. But I couldn't. Minter Vance, my adoptive father, the man who raised me, loved Carl like a son. If I killed Carl, it would break the old man's heart. I couldn't destroy the only family I had left just to satisfy my vengeance. Not yet. I forced myself to breathe. In. Out. I needed a new plan. Where is Liam? I asked, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. Carl blinked, the question catching him off guard. Why the hell do you care about Liam right now? I took a step back, putting distance between his grabby hands and my body. Just tell me where he is. Carl groaned, clutching his chest as another wave of the toxin racked his body. Back mountain. The cabin by the cleansing pool. I didn't wait for another word. I turned on my heel and bolted. Gregory, come back here. His shout faded behind me as I sprinted into the night. I channeled my internal energy into my legs, moving faster than I ever had in my previous life. The wind whipped past my ears, drying the cold sweat on my face. Liam. The sweet, innocent, charity case I had brought into the Order. The viper I had nursed in my bosom. I reached the cabin near the cleansing pool in record time. I didn't bother knocking. I pounded on the wood with my fist. Liam, open up. A moment later, the door creaked open. Liam stood there, looking disheveled and annoyed, holding a lantern. His delicate features twisted into a frown when he saw me. Gregory? He sighed, feigning a polite confusion. It's the middle of the night. What could you possibly? Carl is dying. I cut him off, grabbing his arm. The frostbite toxin triggered a lethal rut. He needs help. Now. Liam's eyes widened, a flash of calculation hidden quickly behind a mask of concern. What? But. I can't. You're coming with me. I didn't give him a choice. I dragged him out of the cabin. We moved fast, my grip on his arm bruising. Gregory, you're hurting me. Liam whined, stumbling over tree roots. Slow down. Shut up and run, I snapped. Unless you want him dead. We made it back to Carl's quarters in less than 10 minutes. The courtyard gate was hanging open. Carl was leaning against a pillar on the porch, his face a terrifying shade of purple, his breathing coming in ragged gasps. He looked like he was seconds away from exploding. When he saw Liam, the madness in his eyes shifted. It wasn't just lust anymore, it was desperation. Liam, Carl groaned, reaching out a trembling hand. Liam pulled away from my grip, rushing forward with a perfectly practiced look of anguish. Carl. Oh my God. Carl, what's happening to you? Help me. Carl gasped. Inside. Hurry. Liam threw a quick glance back at me. I saw it then, the triumph. The smirk he didn't bother to hide because he thought I was too stupid to see it. I stood frozen as Carl grabbed Liam's waist and practically carried him into the bedroom. The door slammed shut with a definitive thud. Almost immediately, the sounds began. The muffled cries, the heavy thuds of bodies against the wall, the animalistic growls of an alpha claiming a mate. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. My knees felt weak, but not from heartbreak. From relief. It was done. In this life, I hadn't touched him. The bond wasn't formed. The red thread of fate that had strangled me for so long was finally severed. I turned my back on the moans coming from the room and walked away into the darkness. The walk back to the main manor, where Minter Vance and I lived, was quiet. The adrenaline was fading, leaving me with a hollow ache in my chest. I thought about Liam. I had found him shivering in a dilapidated hut at the foot of the mountain years ago. A poor scholar with no family. I had begged Minter Vance to take him in. I gave him my old clothes, shared my food, treated him like the brother I never had. I was so blind. I remembered the day my jade tassel, a gift from Carl for my 20th birthday, went missing. I tore my room apart. I found it days later in the ash pile behind the kitchen, smashed to pieces. Only Liam knew where I kept it. Only Liam knew how much it meant to me. When I confronted him, he had fallen to his knees in the snow, weeping. It was an accident, Gregory. I was just admiring it. Please, don't kick me out. I have nowhere to go. And then Carl had appeared. He saw Liam crying in the snow and looked at me with such disappointment. Gregory, really? It's just a trinket. Why are you so cruel? That was the beginning of the end. Liam moved into Carl's quarters for protection, and I was slowly pushed out. Not this time. I reached the main hall just before midnight. Minter Vance was sitting in his favorite armchair, his head bobbing as he dozed. He looked older than I remembered. The floorboard creaked, and he jerked awake. Huh. Who goes there? He squinted, then relaxed when he saw me. You brat. I was about to sound the alarm. Where have you been? Tears pricked my eyes. In my past life, Carl had pushed Minter Vance down a flight of stone stairs during an argument about me. The old man never walked again. And when Carl took over the order, he shipped Minter off to a rotting farmhouse to die alone. I crossed the room in 3 strides and fell to my knees beside his chair, burying my face in his lap. Hey. Minter Vance sounded panicked, his rough hand patting my head. What's this? Who bullied you? Tell me his name. I'll break his legs. No one. I choked out, trying to mask the sob in my voice. I tripped and broke that clay figurine you bought me. I'm sorry. He let out a sigh of relief. You silly child. It's just dirt and water. We'll buy 100 more tomorrow. Go to bed, Gregory. I went to my room, curled up under the quilt, and for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I slept without nightmares. The next morning, the atmosphere in the dining hall was thick enough to cut with a knife. I walked in to find the table set. Minter Vance was already seated, looking grumpy. But to my surprise, Carl and Liam were there too. Carl hadn't eaten breakfast with us in months. Gregory. Good morning. Liam chirped. I looked at him. He was wearing a high-collared shirt, but it couldn't hide the bruising red mark on the side of his neck. He saw me looking and deliberately tilted his head to show it off more. Morning, I said flatly, sitting down on the mentor's left. I picked up a bowl of porridge. The table was filled with my favorites, crystal shrimp dumplings and chicken congee. Liam picked up his chopsticks, hovered over the dumplings, and then sighed, putting them down. What's wrong? Carl asked, his voice dripping with a tenderness he had never shown me. Not hungry. Liam offered a weak, brave smile. It's not that, Carl. My stomach is just delicate. You know I can't handle seafood. It's too cooling for my constitution. My spoon clattered against my bowl. Carl immediately turned to the servant standing by the door. Take these away. Have the kitchen make something warm and bland. Soup, maybe. Mentor Vance slammed his chopsticks onto the table. The sharp crack made everyone jump. Can't handle seafood? He barked, glaring at Liam. The kitchen staff told me you were in there at 2 a.m. last night, cracking open leftover crab claws like a starving raccoon. Carl frowned, his brow furrowing. Dad, please. Liam is sensitive. And why is everything on this table tailored to Gregory's taste? Because Gregory is my son. Mentor Vance roared. He eats what he likes. If you bring guests, they eat what is served, or they starve. Since when does a guest dictate the menu? Liam's eyes filled with instant tears. He grabbed Carl's sleeve. Carl, don't fight with the master for me. I'll eat it. I'll force it down. He picked up a dumpling with a trembling hand like he was about to swallow poison. Stop it, Carl snapped, knocking the dumpling from Liam's chopsticks. We're leaving. He stood up, grabbing Liam's hand. He paused, looking down at me with cold eyes. Gregory, a word. Outside. I calmly swallowed a spoonful of porridge. I'm eating. Now. I sighed, wiped my mouth, and followed him out to the corridor. He shut the door, blocking Mentor Vance's view. Listen to me, Carl hissed, leaning in close. About last night. Keep your mouth shut. I don't want Dad hearing any filthy rumors. I looked him in the eye. I have nothing to say to him. Good. And another thing. Put away your disgusting little schemes. My schemes? I laughed, a short, humorless sound. Don't play dumb. You drugged me, didn't you? You spiked my tea with the solar flare elixir to force a bond. You thought if I lost control, I'd take you right there on the desk. The accusation stung, even though I expected it. He really thought so little of me. Carl, listen carefully, I said, keeping my voice steady. I didn't drug you. I didn't touch you. I went and got Liam. If I wanted to trap you, why would I fetch him? He scoffed. Because you panicked. Or maybe you wanted to play the victim. It doesn't matter. Just know this. Looking at you makes me sick. You and your desperate, unrequited obsession. It's pathetic. I felt a piece of my soul shrivel up and die. But in its place, something harder, colder, and stronger was born. You're right, I said. He blinked. What? I said you're right. It is pathetic. So let's fix it. I pointed toward the gate. Get out of my house. Take your boyfriend and leave. Carl's face darkened. This is my house too. Not anymore. Mentor gave the deed to the East Wing to me last year. You moved to the bamboo pavilion with Liam, remember? You're a guest here. And guests who insult the host get kicked out. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. I don't love you, Carl. Not anymore. I prefer the memory of the man who taught me to hold a sword. That man is dead. You're just the stranger wearing his face. I turned and walked back into the dining hall, leaving him standing there, mouth slightly open. Rumors in the order spread faster than a wildfire. By noon, the story was everywhere. Did you hear? Gregory tried to force himself on Carl last night. Yeah, he used an aphrodisiac. Desperate. Thank God Carl fought him off. Can you imagine being bonded to someone like that? I was walking past the training grounds when I heard a group of junior disciples snickering. He thinks just because he's the mentor's favorite, he can do whatever he wants, one boy sneered. If he wasn't adopted, he'd be cleaning latrines. I stopped. I turned slowly to face them. The laughter died instantly. You have a lot to say, I said, my voice projecting across the yard. For someone who placed last in the sparring tournament. The boy turned red. I didn't. There's video proof. Another disciple shouted, trying to be brave. It's on the notice board. Video proof? I marched to the administration hall. A crowd was gathered around the holographic notice board. A Shadowstone recording was playing on loop. The grainy footage showed the corridor outside Carl's room last night. It showed Carl grabbing my wrist, his face flushed. It showed my collar being torn. And then, the video cut. It cut right before I bit him. It cut right before I ran to get Liam. Edited. It looked exactly like a lover's quarrel. It looked like I had seduced him, and he had pushed me away. I knew who did this. I didn't even make it back to my room before Carl intercepted me. He dragged me into an empty supply closet and slammed a shadow stone onto a crate. Destroy every copy you have, he ordered, his chest heaving. I stared at the stone. You think I released this? Who else? Carl shouted. It has the digital signature of the East Wing. Only you have access. You're trying to ruin my reputation to force me to marry you. I picked up the stone. I crushed it in my hand, the magical quartz turning to dust. There, I said calmly. Happy. He looked stunned that I destroyed it so easily. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my communicator. I scrolled through years of messages. Carl, the frost lilies are blooming. Carl, I learned the sword form you showed me. Carl, are you coming home for dinner? Hundreds of messages. And his replies? Busy. No. Stop bothering me. I held the screen up so he could see. Then, I hit delete all. Carl frowned. What are you doing? I'm deleting you, I said. You think I'm trying to ruin you? You think I'm clinging to you? Carl, you are the biggest mistake of my life. And I am done making mistakes. I shoved past him and walked out. A week later, I sat in Minter Vance's study. Gregory, Minter said gently. You know the Skyhaven Order has proposed a marriage alliance. The Shun family. I nodded. I'll do it. Minter choked on his tea. What? But. You and Carl. There is no me and Carl, I said firmly. There never was. But. The Shun boy. Sebastian. They say he's difficult. Cold. He doesn't like Omegas. Or anyone really. I smiled. Perfect. We'll get along great. The next day, Sebastian arrived. He wasn't what I expected. The rumors said he was an ice block. But when he walked into the main hall, dressed in robes of midnight blue silver, he didn't look cold. He looked intense. Our eyes met. I froze. I knew those eyes. In my past life, as the fire consumed the dungeon, a man had burst in. A man who fought through the flames, ignoring the searing heat, trying to reach me. He had held out a hand, his eyes filled with such desperate sorrow. Take my hand. He had screamed. I had shaken my head and let myself fall into the fire. That man was Sebastian. He walked straight up to me, ignoring the Minter, ignoring Carl who was glowering in the corner. He stopped a foot away. Gregory, he said. His voice was deep, resonant, like a cello bowed in a cavern. Sebastian, I breathed. He held out a hand. A small, leather-bound notebook fell from his sleeve. I bent down to pick it up. It fell open. My handwriting is terrible, but the notes were clear. Step 1, bring a gift. Not flowers, too cliché. A sword? No, too aggressive. Step 2, compliment his eyes. Don't stare. Step 3, ask about his hobbies. I looked up at him. He was blushing. A faint, pink tinge on those high, aristocratic cheekbones. He snatched the book back, clearing his throat. That's classified clan information. I laughed. It was the first genuine laugh I had uttered in years. You were researching how to court me? He looked me dead in the eye, his expression deadly serious. I have never done this before. I wanted to get it right. Why? I asked. Why me? Sebastian stepped closer. Because, Gregory, I saw you at the tournament 3 years ago. You were fighting a losing battle, bleeding from the head, and you still smiled. I haven't been able to look at anyone else since. My heart did a strange, fluttery thing. We spent the next month inseparable. It was easy. Sebastian wasn't like Carl. He didn't make me guess. He didn't play games. One afternoon, we were sparring in the bamboo grove. He moved like water, fluid and powerful. He disarmed me gently, his blade stopping an inch from my throat. Yield? He asked, a playful glint in his eyes. Never. I grinned, sweeping his legs. He fell, pulling me down with him. We landed in the soft grass, me on top of him. The air shifted. His scent, sandalwood and rain, wrapped around me. He reached up and brushed a leaf from my hair. Gregory, he whispered. Can I kiss you? I nodded. His lips were soft, warm, and terrifyingly gentle. It wasn't the consuming, violent hunger Carl had. It was reverence. It was a promise. The peace couldn't last forever. A month later, Minter Vance called a family meeting. Dinner. Carl, Liam, me, and Sebastian. The tension was palpable. Carl glared at Sebastian across the table. Liam picked at his food, looking nervous. Minter Vance cleared his throat. He placed a heavy, wooden box on the table. "I'm getting old," he said. "It's time to settle the inheritance of the order." Liam sat up straighter. Carl feigned indifference. "In this box," Minter continued, "are the deeds to the land and the seal of authority. I have decided to split the assets." He opened the box. 50% to Gregory. 50% to Carl. Liam gasped. "That's not fair." Minter's eyes snapped to him. "Excuse me?" Liam stood up, his face red. "Carl is the rightful heir. He's your son. Gregory is just an orphan you picked up. Why should he get half?" Carl placed a hand on Liam's arm, but he looked at Minter Vance with betrayal in his eyes. "Dad, is this true? You're giving half my birthright to him?" Minter Vance looked tired. He pulled a piece of parchment from the box. "Carl," he said softly, "you are not my biological son." The room went dead silent. "What?" Carl whispered. "Your father was my best friend," Minter explained. "He died saving my life. Your mother died in childbirth. I raised you as my own to honor them. But you have disappointed me, Carl. You let this snake," he pointed at Liam, "poison your mind." "Lies," Carl shouted, standing up so fast his chair toppled over. "You're lying just to give Gregory what he wants. I am your son. Read the blood test," Minter said, sliding the parchment across the table. "It was done when you were a baby." Carl snatched the paper. As he read, his face drained of color. He collapsed back into his chair. "So, I'm nobody. You are my son in every way that matters," Minter said. "But I cannot trust you with the whole order. Not while he is whispering in your ear." He pointed at Liam again. Liam looked panicked. "Carl, don't listen to him. He's senile. We deserve it all." "Shut up," Sebastian said. He hadn't spoken all night. Now, his voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He looked at Carl. "You are a fool. You have a diamond, and you traded it for a piece of glass." Carl's head snapped up. His eyes locked on mine. And for the first time, I saw regret. Real, terrified regret. "Gregory," he whispered. "Did you know?" I nodded. "I found out years ago. It's why I never felt like we were brothers." Carl reached across the table, grabbing my hand. "Gregory, please. I made a mistake. I didn't know. We can fix this. Get rid of him. Get rid of Sebastian. Come back to me." I looked at his hand on mine. It felt cold. "Let go," I said. He tightened his grip. "No. You love me. You've always loved me." Sebastian stood up. He didn't shout. He didn't make a scene. He simply picked up a heavy porcelain teapot from the table. "Let him go." Carl sneered at him. "Or what? You'll pour tea on me?" Sebastian smashed the teapot into Carl's face. The sound of shattering china was sickeningly loud. Carl howled, falling back, blood and tea streaming down his face. Sebastian grabbed me, pulling me behind him. He looked down at Carl, who was writhing on the floor. "Touch him again," Sebastian said, his voice terrifyingly calm, "and I will buy this entire mountain just to evict you." The wedding was set for the autumn equinox. The colors of the mountain were blazing gold and red. I stood on the platform at the edge of the cliff, dressed in ceremonial red robes. Sebastian stood opposite me, looking like a god of war in his formal attire. The guests were seated. The music was playing. It was perfect. And then, a scream tore through the air. "Stop, Liam." He ran up the aisle, his hair wild, his clothes torn. He looked insane. "You can't do this," he shrieked. "Gregory is mine to destroy." He pulled a talisman from his sleeve, a forbidden blast charm. The air crackled with unstable energy. The guests screamed and scattered. I braced myself, drawing my sword. But someone was faster. "Carl." He emerged from the crowd. He looked terrible, unshaven, a bandage over his eye where the teapot had hit him. "Liam," Carl shouted. "Put it down." "No." Liam laughed maniacally. "If I can't have the order, no one can. I'll blow us all off this cliff." He activated the charm. It began to glow with a blinding white light. Carl didn't hesitate. He tackled Liam. "No," I screamed, stepping forward. Carl looked at me. Time seemed to slow down. He smiled. It was a sad, Broken smile. I'm sorry, Gregory, he mouthed. He wrapped his arms around Liam, pinning the exploding talisman between their bodies, and threw himself backward. Over the cliff. No. The explosion happened halfway down the ravine. A boom that shook the mountain, followed by a plume of smoke rising from the abyss. Silence fell over the wedding. I ran to the edge. There was nothing but mist and the echo of the blast. They were gone. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Strong. Warm. Grounding. I turned. Sebastian was there. He didn't say anything. He just pulled me into his arms and held me while I shook. It's over, he whispered into my hair. It's finally over. That night, the manor was quiet. The red decorations were still up, casting a warm glow in the bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding a small wooden box. It had been found in Carl's room, marked with my name. Open it, Sebastian said softly, sitting beside me. I opened the lid. Inside was a jade tassel. Not the one Liam had broken. A new one. Carved from better jade, intricate and beautiful. There was a note. I should have believed you. Happy birthday, Gregory. I stared at it for a long time. Then, I closed the box. Do you want to keep it? Sebastian asked. He wasn't jealous. He was just asking. I stood up and walked to the fireplace. The flames were dancing, hungry and bright. No, I said. I tossed the box into the fire. I watched the wood catch. I watched the jade crack in the heat. I watched the last tether to my past turn to ash and smoke. I turned back to the man sitting on the bed. My husband. My future. I walked over to him and climbed into his lap. He wrapped his arms around me, burying his face in my neck, inhaling deeply. I'm tired, Sebastian, I whispered. He kissed my forehead. Sleep, my love, he said. I've got you. And for the first time in 2 lifetimes, I knew I was safe.